born and raised and take great pride in our state. Over the past 20 plus years, CACNC has hosted multidisciplinary team conferences annually without legislative presence. And during an event in Charlotte recently, I heard a very powerful speaker who shared the insight that holds true for us today. Please repeat after me. You and me.
You and me.
Me and you.
Me and you.
If you win.
If you win.
I win too.
I win too.
In the work we do and in our day-to-day lives, we can often feel isolated and separate, feeling that it is our sole responsibility to protect that child. Today, look around and know that you are not alone. We are all fighting the same battle. There is not a sole winner, because every victory is a win for each and every one of us. It warms my heart to know that the children of North Carolina have the support of each of you, that their team of superheroes includes their community members, you as their professionals, legislative representatives, for the first time ever to include our governor. Protecting children has always been a priority for Governor Cooper. Not only has he worked in the General Assembly and as Attorney General to crack down on sexual predators that prey on our children, he's been on the cutting edge of legislation that has led the way for change across this country. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Roy Asbury Cooper III, Governor of North Carolina.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You let out my middle name. We all get teased about our middle name, I know. I am delighted to be here with this group of caring people who love children and who have devoted their lives to keeping children safe. Thank you for that. Dina, thank you for that kind introduction. Glad to see my good friend Ross Bulla here. He and I have worked on a lot of issues together, and I see a number of friends that I know out there. You guys are coming from the medical community, from education, from law enforcement, all of you pulling together and coming together as one to coordinate is so important. So I wanted to come, number one, to say thank you. Number two, to encourage you. And number three, to send us off on a mission to do even more for kids. When I think about my own life, I grew up in eastern North Carolina, grew up in Nash County. I was Northern Nash Knights. You know why I'm really famous? Because somebody already heard it. One Friday night in the Rocky Mount High School gym, we were playing our arch rivals, Rocky Mount, and I, Roy Cooper, blocked Bill Ford's shot. I'm very proud. Very proud. He got 52 points that night, but not 54. And he has helped me both on my campaign for governor and advising me as governor. So I'm glad to know Phil and glad to know my people in Nash County. But when I was growing up, people in the communities surrounded me and helped to raise me and cared about me. My mom was a public school teacher. My dad was a small town lawyer and also worked me out on the farm very early in my life. I had teachers like my third grade teacher, Miss Batchelor. I got public education all the way from first grade through law school. And I remember people like Miss Batchelor, my third grade teacher, the morning my grandmother died, giving me a hug and telling me it was all going to be okay. And I grew up in that kind of loving and caring environment with parents who cared about me and with people in the community who cared about me. And today still, a lot of children grow up that way. But we know that too many of them don't. Too many of them suffer abuse, both physical and mental, sometimes sexual. And these children often live in fear, Their lives are affected permanently by what happens to them. And unless people in this group and people like you out there across our state are committed to helping them, they will end with a life of suffering and sometimes losing their life. I know from talking to people who are close to the system. I have my wife, Kristen, the First Lady of North Carolina, takes this issue very seriously. She has been a volunteer guardian ad litem for years. So she sees these situations. My brother is a district court judge in Nashville and in Edgecombe County. He sees these problems and knows what can happen to families and to kids. And as a state legislator and as Attorney General, I've worked, for example, with law enforcement and I see from your program that you're going to work on issues regarding interviewing children and preparing cases for trial and trying to make sure that these abusers are properly put away and are kept away from these children. I remember with the advent of the internet and seeing so many of these predators go online and start grooming dozens of kids at the same time. And one of the things that I instructed my people to do is find a way to go after them and arrest them. And we used computer technology to go after these predators. And I'll never forget one of the agents who made an arrest that night of an abuser who had a 13, 14-year-old girl who was living with him, and he was abusing her on a constant basis. And that agent was able to say to that young girl, "You don't have to sleep with one eye open tonight because he's coming with us." So we know that there are things that we can do in the law enforcement arena to go after people who abuse our kids and who neglect our kids. But we also know that prevention is the very best way to fight this. It's very hard to arrest our way out of the problem. We can send a strong message. We simply have to go after and fight people who would abuse and neglect children, often in their own families, people that they know well, sometimes people that they do not know, but we have to do that. But before that happens, it would be great if we could prevent it to start with. And where we are now in our state is we have to invest in people. We have to invest in education and in health care and in mental health and in doing the things that we know can help this problem of child abuse and neglect, but also help other problems. People ask me, "What do you want out of being governor? What do you want at the end of the day?" And I tell people, I want a North Carolina population that's better educated, that's healthier, that has more money in their pockets, and that they have the opportunities to live a more abundant and purposeful life. That's what I want. When I'm hiring people for jobs in the governor's office, when I'm appointing secretaries and deputy secretaries, I tell them to keep that vision in their eyesight as they work on the day-to-day issues facing the people of North Carolina, that's what I want at the end of the day. I believe education is the key to a lot of problems affecting this very arena. Education for parents to get them better paying jobs, to get more money in their pockets, to take financial strain off of a family. Education for a kid, to give that kid more opportunities, to surround that kid with people who love him or her, who can spot signs of child abuse and neglect, and who can give that child the mental health and start that child needs. North Carolina should be a top 10 educated state by 2025. And we can do that. There are measurables that show that we could be a top 10 educated state. Number one, early childhood. It starts at birth with these kids. We have to help early in the process. We have to have quality 4- and 5-star child care available for parents. I propose the tax credit for family and child independent care that can help families afford this, because we know that a lot of families, for both mom and dad or both parents, have to work. And we want to make sure that those kids get the quality they need, and we need to get them enrolled in pre-K. We only have 22% of our kids enrolled in pre-K in North Carolina. We need over half of them to be enrolled in pre-K. We need to get more kids graduated from high school. We need to pay our teachers more. We need to invest in public education. I propose that our teachers get to at least number one in the Southeast in 3 years and to the national average of 5 years. And that we pay our state employees. And that we also make sure that there are more people who have certificates and advanced degrees beyond high school. Right now, we're only at 38%. We can do a lot better than that, because people are going to need it for the better paying jobs. And that brings, when families are educated, when they have more money in their pockets, these pressures that sometimes lead to abuse and neglect. That's not all of it. And there are other reasons that it happens. To taking financial strain off families and getting more families educated can help with the problem. Having them healthier is important too. And my goodness, for the last 3 years, we could have been drawing down billions of dollars from the federal government that we have already paid to Washington with our tax money that could come back to our state and ensure hundreds of thousands of North Carolinians, many of them working, many of them who would have mental health services that they don't have today. If we just simply said one word, yes, we will take it. Just like so many Republican governors and Republican legislatures across this country. Ours has continued to refuse to do it. And it's wrong. We have found a way where the state doesn't have to contribute to this. Even though there's a state portion, we can have the medical providers pay that portion. They still have a better bottom line. We draw down the federal money. We help our rural hospitals and we help create good paying healthcare jobs, and we give people help that they need. We reduce the premiums for private businesses because you eliminate indigent care. Not eliminate it, but you significantly reduce it. We got to do that to make families healthier. And I'm going to continue to push to do that. And we got to work to get better paying jobs for people in North Carolina. And I'll tell you, I talked to CEOs who are thinking about expanding here or bringing jobs here. You know the first question they ask me? It's not, what is your corporate tax? The first question they ask me when they're deciding about North Carolina is, do you have the people who can perform the jobs that I create? Do you have that well-trained workforce? Do you have the people who are educated to do these jobs? That's the question. That is why we have to invest in education. That's why we have to stimulate small business. That's why we have to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. And as governor, I'm going to be aggressive in trying to attract those jobs and making sure that people have the education for those jobs. Now, as you work in healthcare, in education, and in our judiciary, working to protect these kids, there are a lot of laws, there are a lot of issues that come up that affect what you are doing. For example, I picked the Department of Health and Human Services Secretary, that I believe is one of the best ever, who will begin the process of trying to improve services that are delivered to people. The Guardian Ad Litem program, working with foster kids. We know the explosion of foster kids in our system. We've got to be able to track those kids. We've got to be able to figure out what they're doing, where they're going, how they're being helped. The court system needs more resources. Our mental health needs more resources. And we're coming to a point in time in our state right now where we have funds that can help us get where we need to go to protect our kids and improve the lives of North Carolinians. But the question is going to be, are we going to do that and provide tax cuts for the middle class and fund education and health care and mental health? Or are we going to provide more corporate tax breaks and tax giveaways for millionaires? And that's essentially what the Senate plan does right now. $1 billion give away to corporations, give away to people who are already making money. There was an amendment run on the floor of the Senate. Said, okay, if you're going to do these income tax cuts, let's at least give them to families making less than $200,000 a year only. It got defeated. That's because they want the cuts to go to the people at the top. And it is wrong. It is wrong because now we need to invest in our people in North Carolina, the things that affect everyday people. And we need people to rise up and say, it is time to make that investment. I'm going to work hard to make sure that we've got the appropriate funds to make the investments that we know that we need to move our state forward. And I'm going to continue to work hard every day as your governor to make sure that we send a message to not only the people across the state and country, but across the world, that North Carolina is open for business, that we're a place for everyone, that diversity is our strength. I have put in place a cabinet that looks like the people that they represent and employees in those departments that look like the people that they represent. And I think that that's an important thing to encourage our diversity and to play on the strengths of that diversity, because that is who we are as North Carolina. We value our people. We value education. We were the first state in this country to open our doors to higher education supported by the public because we knew the value of education. It's not only in our state constitution, it is in our DNA as North Carolina. So I'm delighted to be here with you, caring people. I have 3 daughters. I'm so grateful for their lives. I'm so grateful for the children I've tutored and mentored for decades in schools and have seen the good work that so many of you do to keep our kids safe and to make sure that we stop abuse and neglect. Keep fighting. I know that you are in a business that can be discouraging and that can affect your mental health. I looked at the program and I looked at all of the seminars. Depressing. Depressing. Because you think about what it's about. You think about what these kids have gone through. And you, in your different roles, you work with it. You see it. You take it home. You probably see kids that you've interacted with and tried to help see their faces in your own kids. And when you do that, you're caring. You're putting yourself into your job. But remember to give yourselves a mental health break. Remember that your job can be overwhelming and it's okay to step back some. And I encourage you supervisors to maybe move some people around and do some other things sometimes, because it can be such an emotional strain for all of you. I know that in our law enforcement capacities when I was Attorney General, we would have to move some people out of what they were doing because it was so overwhelming. I'm a person of faith. I think you're doing the Lord's work. And I am grateful to each and every one of you for what you do. I want to leave you with great thanks and great happiness that you are there and comfort that you are there for our children of North Carolina. And to let you know I'm going to work every day to support you and to move North Carolina forward. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Ready, but the governor needs to get to another event, so if you all could just hang in this room for a few minutes, I would appreciate it greatly.